And that is recording, so we go. So now we're going to look at the parry of septime. So in the same way that, cut is the same hand position as cut number 1, tierce is the same hand position as cut number 2, septime is the same hand position as cut number 3. Exact same idea. Rather than cutting out long and slashing at someone, I'm keeping my hand retracted and a little bit further over. But otherwise, it's the exact same hand position so that I can form a parry. And in the same way that, the parry of cut stops cut number 1, the parry of tierce stops cut number 2, parry of septime is good for cut number 3. So all I do from my medium guard to form this parry is I just draw a little circle with my tip and then turn my hand over when the circle's about halfway done. So it ends up being more of like a spiral. So what I do is circle and septime. I'll just show you that from the side. Circle and septime. My hand is in line with the outside edge of my body. My tip is facing down at about 45 degrees or so. Yeah, I almost did like a full spin then. Just went, but yeah, my hand is out at 45 degrees. It's the same idea that as something comes up, I want to basically create a guide for it to come up and clash into my shell. And so for this, all I'm doing is draw a circle and septime. And again, septime. And again, septime. Again, septime. 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 And once more for luck, septime. Right, so we've looked at parries, which is a good thing to do. Like stopping cuts is good, but stopping the opponent from being able to cut you is even better. So we're going to have a quick look at ripostes. And what riposte you're going to do really depends on circumstance, but there's usually one riposte that's really, really good from each parry. And then the others are still really good, but kind of circumstantial. So the first one we can do is a cut number 4. So we go septime, turn our hand over, straight up for cut number 4. So septime, 4. Septime, 4. Septime, 4. Septime, 4. Septime, 4. Septime, 4. And septime, 4. Just something as a bit of a tip. I find playing with the stick is because sticks are really, really naturally hitty and you want to be hitty with them. It's actually quite good for learning about power generation because it teaches you to kind of whip and smack. And smacking a boxing bag with a stick is a really good way to get to, one, kind of build up your muscles because you've got a lot, you're hitting resistance, but two, just get a sense of how to generate power by just punching and whipping. All right, so let's look at some of the other parries we can, or some of the other ripostes we can do from parry of septime. So I chose number 4 first because it's the fastest and most intuitive, but there are others. So septime, go to septime. Let's say I want to do a cut number 1. I can, just to get there. I can't directly go there because as much as I could go, as much as, in absence, I can do this stuff. If there's a sword here, I'm either going to catch on the sword and not be able to do the cut, or I'm going to pull the sword into my own face if I just raise directly up. So what I want to do is rotate, do a full moulinet. So if I go septime, moulinet to cut 1. And what the moulinet will do is displace my opponent's sword, send it flying over there. I go septime, 1, which gives me a greater opening, which is how I land what is essentially a slower cut. So septime, 1, septime, 1, septime, 1. Just to explain the moulinet a little more, all I'm doing is this. Just whirling the sword on the inside of my body. So septime, 1. Septime, 1. Septime, 1. Now you can do the same thing with cut number 2. Then go septime, whirl, and cut number 2. So now what I'm doing is I'm cutting a figure of 8. So I'm going whoop, whoop. So septime, and I come up into I come up in the first part of my figure 8, And I come down in the second part of my figure eight to do a cut number 2. So 13, 2, 13, 2, 13, 2, 13, 2, 13, 2, 13, 2, 13, 2, and 13, 2. All right. So this kind of, so we can see how this Mornay motion, it's not a main part of British fencing as much as it's, and it's a lot more popular in continental fencing. The Mornays and Mornellos. Mornays being, these things, but Mornello is where you do it really more from the elbow in Italian fencing. But they do have applications. There are times in British fencing where they are the most intuitive thing to do, and not using Mornay but doing a certain motion is difficult to impossible. So let's look at something that's a little quicker. Use the same idea but a little quicker. Parry septime, but now instead of doing but I'm going to do a cut 6. So all I do is I turn my hand over this place like this. My opponent sort of probably be sitting about here, and my opponent might even try and redouble their attack or do something. But I just flip forward, and it's this forward motion that will push my opponent's sword back as I hit. So I'm going to choose 13, roll my hand over, and punch straight out. Septime, 6. 13, 6. 13, 6. 13, 6. 13, 6. And 13, 6. And there are other options. I can do septime all the way around and throw a cut 5. I could do a septime, parry septime, and come, and basically Mornay all the way around and come with a cut 3. These are very big moments. I'm not really going to cover those, but if you want to try them out at home, I do recommend that. Because a really, really important part of being a good fencer is being able to improvise and being able to innovate. So we're going to move on. If anyone has any questions, please ask. I'm just going to move up and get to the microphone so I can hear any questions. But just to cover a bit more of what I was saying before, there are times when I deliberately, I'll show you a little bit in pieces and say, right, there's more here, but I want you to go and do it yourself. And that was a very deliberate choice on my part, because I found the best fencers are the ones who kind of can work things out for themselves. So I try and show people the most useful, or the things I find the most useful, or whether it's because I use them effectively or because they're effectively used against me. But I try and leave some openings and some places where people can go and kind of play with themselves, well, play for themselves, not play with themselves. I mean, that's perfectly acceptable if you do that, but I don't want to know about it. But just to kind of help, learn to improvise and learn to adapt. Cool. So, are there any questions? I'll take that as a no.